While we're talking, thank you. While we're talking this morning, also I'd welcome people to use the chat to also ask any questions, so that as we come towards the end of the talk, we can also then come to a point where we can look at the chat for asking questions. So I'll be speaking today. My colleague, Dr. Maggie McCall, will be speaking, and we also have a former student of a PGT, but now a present PhD student, Herdiana Hakeem. So Herdiana, I don't know if you would like to just quickly wave and say hello to everybody.
Hi. Sorry, mute. Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Herdiana.
So I'll go on to proper slide sharing mode, and there we go. Okay. Alfin, is there any update on Maggie?
I'm just sending the copy link to her, so hopefully the link is still active and valid.
Okay.
Yep.
So I suppose if one of the things that we're probably asking ourselves as we do this presentation is, why Glasgow? Why would somebody want to study at Glasgow? Why would somebody want to be involved in collaborative research with the University of Glasgow? And in terms of, we work there, so we obviously think our university is one of the best in the world, but the statistics also bear this out. It's an old university, established coming up to, I can't do maths very quickly, but you know, we'll be celebrating no, I'm not going to try and do the maths, sorry. But an old established university, and our students report that on graduating from the university, and I have to say I'm a 3 times graduate from the University of Glasgow, students find employment within 6 months of graduating. Okay, Maggie, I believe has now joined us. And so Maggie, maybe perhaps if I finish this slide, and then you'll be able to join us on the next slide. We have over 29,000 students from over 140 countries. And one of the privileges of working at the university is being able to meet students from other countries, and also staff. We have a very large international staff. Our statistics are very, very good. Over the last couple of years, we've moved up into the top 50 in the World QS rankings, particularly within the field of education, and first in the UK on the Times Good University Guide. So in terms of our standing and our reputation, it's very much a university where people want to come and study, and people want to get involved in international collaborative work. Maggie, would you like to come and say good morning to everybody, or good afternoon in Indonesia, and then I can hand over to you for the next slides?
Of course, Julie, thank you. And apologies, I had some technical issues there, as I think we're all very used to now with everything that has been on in the last year and a half. Yes, so I am the Director of Postgraduate Taught Study in the School of Education at Glasgow University. And I've been doing this particular role for the past 4.5 years. And I think, you know, Julie has just mentioned there the number of accolades we've had as an institution in terms of excellence and in terms of recognition for excellence. But the school itself has also experienced several accolades and enjoyed several accolades and awards in the last few years for our student experience. And I think that's something that's very important to mention, because the experience you have when you come to Glasgow as a student is not just about your studies, it's about the people that you're studying with, it's about your tutors, your staff that you're working with, your supervisors. It's about the administrative staff who support you, but it's also about the environment in which you're studying. And Glasgow has this fabulous environment that our students absolutely love to come and study in. In fact, it's interesting when you meet students years after they have qualified, and they always tell you they miss Glasgow and they wish they could come back to Glasgow, because Glasgow is renowned for its warmth, for its welcoming attitude, and of course for its history. And Scotland is known for its history. And I've added some slides here that indicate a little bit about the kind of place that Glasgow itself is. It's a vibrant, bustling city. The university is situated in the heart of what we call the West End of Glasgow. And you know, it's a fantastic place with parks, with lots of amenities on your doorstep, but equally not far from where we are, you can access some fantastic historic sites. So we've got Stirling, which is just another 40 minutes by bus or by car or by train from Glasgow. You have St Andrews, the historic seat of royalty in St Andrews, sitting on the coast. But equally, you have an array of cultural and heritage locations round and about to visit. And that's something that our students are always very keen to enjoy, because they can come and they can situate and base themselves in Glasgow and enjoy travelling to these different places. And this year, everything is crossed that we can get back to some kind of normal. And certainly in the next couple of years, things should return to normal, where that ability to be able to travel all over Scotland and from Scotland indeed to other European destinations that are fairly local to us is possible. So I put some nice slides up here just to give you a sense of that. Now, as Julie mentioned there, Glasgow has enjoyed these wonderful accolades, but equally the School of Education has. And in the past few years, our numbers of students have really risen. We have done extremely well in terms of being recognised as an excellent provider of education for postgraduate students and undergraduate students. And as you can see, we've received many awards there for that. But our numbers have also risen. We've seen a considerable amount of growth in our student numbers, and specifically in terms of our international student numbers. We are very accustomed to welcoming and working with international students in the School of Education. And that's something that's actually very important for you to know, because there are all sorts of layers to do with being an international student, and we have the staff who can support you along the way to ensure that your journey to education is as smooth as possible. But we also have students from over 60 countries within our own School of Education, which means that you know, we endeavour to provide an international experience for students where debates, discussions, collaborations offer the opportunity for multicultural and cross-cultural insights. So that's important to know as well, because you are coming to an institution where we have students from all over the world who are learning our programmes, who are working with us. So I think, Julie, I can move on to the next slide now. So to the programmes that we think that you might be interested in terms of the School of Education at Glasgow University. And so we have, what I've done here is grouped the programmes that I think would be most relevant to international students under particular headings. We have other programmes, but they might not be the kind of programmes that are necessarily of as much interest to you. So under something like community and cultural education, well, our School of Education has a strong commitment to social justice. And that commitment to social justice is something that's reflected across these programmes you see listed here. And so what we mean by a commitment to social justice is this desire to work for the better of society, to work for improved conditions in society, for better access to education for people in society. And so these programmes very much touch on these types of themes in one way or another. If we take, for instance, those first three programmes that are very closely tied together, Adult Education, Community Development and Youth Work, which is an MEd, Adult Education for Social Change, an International Masters, the MSc Education for Sustainable Futures in Adult, Youth and Community Contexts, which is an MSc, but these three programmes focus very much on adult education. You can see that's a theme running through all three of them. Now, how do they differ? Well, the top programme there is very much focused on sort of practice, if you like. It's very much immersed in the practice side of things. And in fact, those students do a placement. They do a practice placement, an extended practice placement on that particular programme. The second one, the International Masters, is exactly that. It's a programme where students move from one country to another. So they begin in Glasgow, all students come together and begin in Glasgow, but they might choose their second semester to be somewhere like Malta. They have a number of different institutions and countries to select from. So you move from one country to another, discussing, debating, researching adult education, and as it says there, for social change. The third programme there is one that has seen a lot of changes in the last few years, and it's had a bit of an evolution. So it's called MSc Education for Sustainable Futures in Adult, Youth and Community Contexts. And that particular programme is, while it explores adult education and youth and community contexts, there's a very strong focus on policy and policy development. And it's very much about the research side of things. There isn't the placement that there is in the first programme, but it's more focused around the sort of strategic policy side of things. So, you know, there are differences between these programmes, although sometimes when you look at them, you can see there are these themes running through them, and they might look very similar. The next three programmes we have there are all focused on museum and heritage education. So we have the MSc Museum Education, which is a campus programme. We have the same programme available via online study. So sometimes students cannot, up sticks and move to another country, whether it's because they can't leave their job, they can't leave their families or whatever. So sometimes students prefer to study online with us, and this particular programme is available on campus and online. This is actually my own programme, which is very much focused around community engagement and cultural engagement, and exploring how we can use museum and heritage collections and spaces and themes to engage learners of all ages, from very, very young children right through to the elderly, people who are from particular groups in society to people with particular needs in society, and thinking about how we can actually access education, study, research, collaboration through museums and heritage. But we also have a new master's there, which is an international master's that will launch in September 22. And that's the Museum Heritage and Education Masters. And just like Adult Education for Social Change, that has a very strong, intense international feel to it, because students begin in Glasgow and then they choose to go to, in their second semester, they would either choose to go to Tartu or Ireland, and they then have the option of a summer school in Mexico or with a museum in Europe before going into their second year, where they would study at either Radboud or Malta. So, you know, these international master's programs are programs where students move around the world. You study for one term with one institution, and then you move to a different institution and study with them. So you get this very, very broad picture of that subject area from a very strong, intensive international perspective. Children's literature, media and culture, and children's literature and literacies. I'm going to ask Julie to say a little bit there because she teaches on these programmes. So Julie, I'll hand over to you for these two programmes.
Yes, for the children's literature and literacies, and that's one of the reasons we've also invited her, Diana, where she's been she's an alumni of the master's programme. is a course that's been running for over 10 years. And it's slightly unique at Glasgow because not only do we look at children's literature, we also take it all the way from the publication of the book to the child and how the book is then being used in educational contexts. So we're not just looking at the literature, we're then looking at how the literature is actually used in school settings or informal educational settings. We have a huge alumni, we have a long history of staying in touch, and we've got some stories from some of our graduates coming up next to hear about how they've moved on to working in libraries or working with governments to try and establish policy connected to children's literature. It's an absolutely burgeoning area of interest around the world. Our International Children's Literature Masters is a 2-year programme, and it starts off in Glasgow, and then the students are able to choose 3 distinct pathways in their 2nd year, choosing to study in Aarhus in Denmark, Tilburg in Holland, or Barcelona in Spain. And in the 2nd year, when they take on these pathways, they're then able to go off and look in more detail at concepts connected to media and culture, or concepts connected to working with children and reading and the actual analysis of reading and what reading means. There's also a summer school for students. This year that was run as an online summer school that happens from Vancouver. So these international masters allow more in-depth study and allow students to then produce larger dissertations of up to 30,000 words. So if a student's thinking about which one to apply for, they really have to think about, you know, are they wanting the 1 year's masters as a stepping stone, or would they prefer these 2-year masters that give much more in-depth analysis of subjects? Maggie, I'll stop there.
Thanks, Julie, that's great. We can go on to the next slide.
Sorry, don't know where. Okay, go there.
There we are. Okay, so this next group of programmes I have given the heading of Policy Professional Education Programmes, because they very much are focused on policy and the more sort of traditional professional education side of things, very often closely aligned with some form of teaching. So for instance, we have Educational Studies MEd and Educational Studies MSc, and those 2 programmes are, well, the MEd programme is our biggest programme in the School of Education, in fact. And these are programmes that deal with contemporary issues connected with education and educational practice and provision. So you might study something like modern educational thought, looking at different educational theorists and practices. You might look at something like policy related to education, but you also have options in these programs. So you have a core number of courses and then a number of options to choose from. So you might, within that program, look at something like inclusive education as an option, or you might go more in depth to policy as an option. So Educational Studies is one of these more sort of generic education programs that we have in the school, more of a kind of traditional master's level education program. We also have Educational Policy for Global Development, which is an international program, where with the other 3 international programs that we showed you previously in the last slide, we are the lead on those other 3 programs. With this particular program, we are a consortium partner. So students don't all come to us in the first semester, but some students choose to come to us in the 2nd semester. And that program is very much based on the teachings of the program below it, which is, the educational policy program that we have in the school. Which is an MSc program we have in the school, which is Education Policy and Practice. And those 2 programs are very closely linked together. Inclusive Education Policy and Practice is another MEd that we have in the school, which is very much focused on inclusive education. And it deals with more generic issues related to inclusive education in the classroom. That programme very often attracts students who are home students, but also we are seeing increasingly more and more students coming from other countries to study with us there. And then TESOL, Julie, I'll hand over to you again for the MEd and the MSc there.
Thank you, Maggie. Previously, I was the programme leader for TESOL for the Masters and the MSc, and I've just left that position this academic year. We have two courses and we run them jointly with the School of Modern Languages and Culture. And that means that we can bring staff who have an educational take on TESOL teaching, and we can also have some linguists who have that in-depth knowledge about language. We have two courses. The MEd is designed for people who have experience in the field of teaching English to speakers of other languages. We ask for 2 years experience, and the MSc is designed for those who have no experience in working in this field. Although at points, the two students from the two different groups are actually taught together. And what we do is we differentiate in our teaching practice classes. Both these degrees offer small opportunities for peer-to-peer teaching and group teaching, where students are actually learning about the theory, but they're also then learning how to apply it. And I think later on I have a couple of further slides, again, where I can talk a little bit more about why these courses are so important in the world today. Maggie, that's...
Thanks, Julie. So that takes us through the programmes that we feel are best to kind of highlight with you. Of course, if you can very easily go on to our postgraduate website within the School of Education, and you will see the full list of programmes. But some of our other programmes, we have leadership programmes in education, but at the moment those programmes are very much focused on it's the Scottish curriculum, the Scottish structure for education. But we are in the process of developing those to make them much more international. And we, of course, can pass that information on as that process advances. Considerations for study choice. So obviously, when people are thinking about what they want to study as a postgraduate programme, we know that these are some of the factors they consider. So very often it is about, at postgraduate level, it's of course about the development of skills and knowledge in the subject field. So sometimes you're in a field and you want to advance your qualifications, whether that be for your own enjoyment or your own satisfaction or your own academic development, or sometimes for professional development. People have lots of different reasons for why they wish to take these programmes. So I would say, have a really good think about what are your current qualifications, what exactly is it that you want to advance your qualifications and your skills and your knowledge in terms of, and for what purpose, because that should let you think about what might be a useful pathway to pursue. Also, thinking about engagement with concepts to further career aims and objectives. So very often, we have to be thinking about, well, what happens after you graduate and qualify? And we have lots of measures in place to support you with that, and thinking about employment and thinking about, what kind of job do you want to pursue as a result of this qualification? Placement work experiences, is that something that's important to you? We know that that's something that is becoming increasingly attractive to students, because having that work experience on their master's programme is something that they can talk about when they go for job interviews and say, well, I did, I worked for a month in this particular institution and I was able to put my theory into practice. So we have programmes where we have those placement and work experiences, the Adult, Youth and Community Context programme, Museum Education, we have placements because these are very focused on practice. Interaction and engagement via campus or online tuition. Now, is it that you want to physically travel to Glasgow and study because you want that whole experience and you're in a position that you can do that? Or is it more appropriate for you to be thinking about pursuing something with us that is an online programme? And we have online programmes, postgraduate programmes. So perhaps it's best that you study remotely. The availability of an enhanced academic environment via guest speakers, seminars, and a focus on employability. So that's something that you might be thinking about in terms of if you want to come and have a campus experience, that it's about the environment that you want to study in and what can that environment offer you. And how will that sit in terms of your next steps beyond graduation? Because we know that people need to be thinking like that.
Maggie, thank you. Maggie, I think at this point you're going to have to leave us to move on to...
Yes, I have to go. I have a student who is having her PhD viva, so I need to go and be with her just now. But my contact details are there, they're on the website, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that you have. But equally, Julie, as the Director of Internationalisation, is more than competent and capable of answering your questions. So I'll leave you in her very good hands. But thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Maggie.
So to finish off, we've given you an overview of some of the programmes, and we can talk in more depth about any of the programmes if you have any questions. We will share these slides after the event. Alfin will share them, and all of the links are hyperlinked to the web pages that will give you more information. I just wanted to finish by sort of reminding us that, you know, this is from a Malaysian English newspaper, where they're talking about the Minister of Education is talking about the need for graduates to work within the English language medium. Now, one of the things we talk about on our courses here at Glasgow is the impact of global English and what that then means for national languages, and how you can then work to maintain elements of being bilingual, and how you can also protect home languages and indigenous languages. So although we acknowledge that English is a global language, we also try to contextualize our learning of English within this context of understanding that there are other languages, and that people's international identities are important when you can actually encourage both. My father was remarking to me the other day, there's a little embedded clip here about the globalization of English within Japan, and how if you start traveling around the city, you know, there are so many instances of English language. So whether we like it, and we have got critiques of this, English language is something that is making this global impact on us all. And as I said, my father was commenting as he watched the Olympics, just how much of the signage was available in English language. And we were talking about the need to have that, because you're working towards this global market for advertising. So there is this need that students who have studied English, or academics who have English at their disposal, are then able to make greater inroads in the job market and take that forward. I have some specific information about the TESOL programme. As I said, it draws on expertise from two schools, the School of Education and the School of Modern Languages and Cultures. So it's actually taught across the two programmes. The TESOL team is quite a large team of about 10 individuals, and they were awarded the University Teaching Excellence Award in 2020. So the work of the team was recognised as being of the highest calibre within the university. Not only are they involved in teaching, they're involved in a lot of work where they're working on research projects connected to English language. They're particularly, as a group, interested in the field of translanguaging and English as a global language. So if there's anybody out there who's wanting more specific information about TESOL, I can provide that. I could also set up links between the TESOL teaching team and staff at UPI if that's what you were looking for, a more in-depth conversation. I really want to just I've got a couple of slides to finish off, and then I'm going to hand over to her, Diana, to say a few words. But these are some quotes from some of our previous students within the School of Education, where they're talking about how they use their degrees and then use these to find employment. So this is from Emily, who was one of our students in 1718. And she's just talking about how the master's degree allowed her to get her dream job within a non-profit organisation connected to children's books and literacy programming. I'll just let you have a little look at that for a moment, rather than me reading her words for her. But you can see she talks about using the skills on the course and actually being able to use those in the context of her employment. And what we do at Glasgow with our assessments, we try to make our assessments contextualised so that students can draw upon and write assessments that they might then draw upon in job interviews or once they're actually in employment. So we do try to make our as I said, our assessments contextualised and allow students to think about ideas that they would use later on in their working lives. This is like Herdiana, another one of our students who the programme helped her, but also then allowed her to move on to taking a PhD. Now, not all of our students move straight from the master's degrees into PhDs. Some of them go and work, some of them go away for a couple of years and come back. But we stay in touch with our students, and we're quite happy to work to create proposals for their PhDs alongside them, so that we can sort of abridge them of what's the latest ideas and what people are thinking. And can I just say that Libby has actually just graduated, so she's now technically Dr. Libby Nelson. This is from one of the students who was taking museum education. And again, you can see that she's embedded herself in the city of Glasgow and learns a lot from experiencing the city and its museums. And we also have statistics to say that, again, in terms of employability, employers like to go back to graduates who have had an international experience, albeit it could be a virtual experience, but they have some knowledge and understanding of other languages and cultures. And then we also have one of our students from the Educational Studies programme. And again, you can have a little look at her comments in terms of she started to get involved in the wider social life and was playing volleyball with the university volleyball team. And so it's not just about the academics, it's also about the whole person and how they can take part in other aspects connected to their personal and professional development. I'm now going to hand over to Herdiana, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her experience as somebody who's been a postgraduate student and now is a postgraduate research student at the University of Glasgow.
Thank you, Julie. Julie is also one of my lecturers, one of the excellent lecturers here in the School of Education. So I'm really glad to share about my study here. So I did a MED in Children's Literature and Literacies in 2015 and 2016. So the master's here is only 1 year. And then I came back to Indonesia for 2 years. And then I got the funding for taking a PhD. And like Julie said, I stayed in touch with the lecturers. And then they also helped me to develop my proposal. So to focus on my specific research interest until I got the funding and got to do the PhD. So I started in October 2018. So at the moment I'm on my final year. Wish me luck. For those who ask me why I chose University of Glasgow, the easy answers, the simple, straightforward answers are the program and the funding. So the first reason, the program, is my interest in children's books. So I previously did English literature for my undergraduate. I'm from University of Indonesia. So I did my undergraduate there. And then I did a master in children's, in developmental psychology, also in University of Indonesia. So you could see that I try to work my way around children's literature, because as you know, we don't have this as a program yet back home in Indonesia. So, but I could learn about the text in English literature, and then I could learn about the children in the, when I took developmental psychology. And then I finally realized that there is a program called children's literature. And then I tried to do some research about universities in the world that offer courses on children's literature. And then I found Glasgow, and the name attracted me because it's not only children's literature, but also literacies. And like Julie has previously mentioned as well, what interested me immediately is that you not only look at the text, but also how the texts are read or are used in pedagogical context. So by the children, by the teachers, or you're looking at the gatekeepers of the text, about the parents, educators, policymakers. So yeah, that's how I then decided that, yes, I'm gonna apply to University of Glasgow. And then when I looked up for funding, so I'm funded by Lpdp. You already hear about that, I'm sure. It's quite famous scholarship back home. So when I applied for the MED, in 2015, University of Glasgow was included in Lpdp's top universities in the UK that they're going to fund. So that's why my shortlist became very short, became just one name. Okay, Glasgow then. So that's how I ended up here. The highlights is, I think it's already mentioned as well by both Maggie and Julie. So international community is really what sold me here. It's the exposures to not only the warm Scottish people, the Scottish community here, but also the closeness to network, to be able to network with other scholars, not just here, but also from other parts of the world that I think, I really believe, have allowed me to grow not only as scholar, but also as individual, because I previously worked in media, in a family magazine, as a journalist. So I'm new in the world of academia. So this is how I learned how to be a scholar, but also, yeah, just to be a human in general. So I think that's it. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. Back to you, Julie, or Alvin.
Thank you very much. I think it's back to Parvin, who's doing the mediating.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Hendiana, Julie. Well, basically, the reason, the main point that I asked UP team to have this session is also to prepare for all the students, probably also the lecturer, to find out about what will be need to prepare for the Lpdp scholarship, which is really opening in the next 2 days, I guess, is the 1st of August. So many of the candidates that I found and also applying to Glasgow and also have some connection with me, they're still not really sure about the program. Something that I want to highlight is the Lpdp scholarship schemes right now is quite bigger and wide, because it's really focused to educators. So some of the program that we have in Glasgow from School of Education, so that probably of the main point that maybe some people want to look at. So that's something that I want to add from my marketing side at the University of Glasgow. So I think I will pass to team of UPI again. And just quick say hello to Pak Abu, Pak Fuari, how are you? Assalamualaikum, Pak. It's a long time no see.
Salam, how are you, Pak Alvin?
I'm good, Pak.
Hello, Dr. Julie McAdam. I still remember when you came to UP before the pandemic, Alvin, with Dr. Claire McManus.
Yes, that's right.
And some others from
UPG. Yeah. We came with Claire McManus and also Ibu Ramona from the Adam Smith Business School. Yeah. Hopefully the pandemic will be over, Pak, so I can come to face-to-face meeting with you.
Sure.
Okay, so just to hand it over to Pak Upadhyaya.
Yeah, yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, Pak Alvin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, after we heard the presentations from both Julie and Maggie and also some testimony from Herdiana Hakeem, I'd like to invite the academics from UPI side to give their feedbacks and maybe also to promote what they have in their study programs, especially related to the educational programs and the literature and literary studies. First of all, I would like to invite Ibu Dr. Safrina Nurman, who is currently the head of Language Center and also a senior lecturer from Literature Studies at the Department of English Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to Ibu Safrina. You're still muted, Ibu. Excuse me. Yeah, all good.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Ubad, and it was a very interesting and nice presentation from Maggie, Julie, and Herdiana. But I think my question, I think I agree with Pak Alvin when you told us that many students were still confused about what to study. Like when I listen to Maggie and Julie's presentation, there are subjects which are actually for me, very interesting and very future looking, rather than for example, TESOL, MA TESOL program, which are very popular in Indonesia. Subjects like adult sustainability. What was it? There is one. There are subjects which are, I think, very will have very probably more future, more perspective in the future, like the museum study program. I think it's not popular in Indonesia. The study program, I only know one department on museology in Unpad, but I think it is worth promoting about museum, as it's not popular, and I think there will be time when we need to look into our heritage more compared to what is happening now in Indonesia. So I believe that there should be more promotion probably on unique study program or more specialized study program, because I think in Indonesia people keep taking TESOL programs, and so like a children's literature is let's say it's not very popular, and not, now there are quite a lot of research on children's literature, Bu Herdiana. But I think in the past, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, there are not many research on Indonesian literature. And you have Indonesian literature, you have local language. So you have children's literature in the local language. I think it is also worth studying and also promoting, perhaps, because we keep on having students choosing subjects such as TESOL, which is, of course, because it's popular, but I think there is also the need to popularize, make this program studies more familiarizing this study program to prospective students from Indonesia, because I think it will be very important in the future. It's just that we don't really know what actually it's about. Maybe that will be from me, maybe Buhani or.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ibu Safrina. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for us to hear another feedback talk from another invited academic from UPI. Allow me to briefly introduce her. Her name is Hani Yulindrasari, PhD. She is currently a senior lecturer for children education and gender psychology at Early Childhood Teacher Education Study Program, Faculty of Educational Sciences, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. So Ibu Hani, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Pak Ubad. And thank you for Julie, Maggie, and Herdiana for the very informative presentation. I agree with Dr. Safrina that I think the University of Glasgow should promote more of this very specific master programs. And there's something that missing from the presentation, I think, and I think this information will be, it's a lot of our students waiting for the information that I'm going to ask as well. First of all is about scholarship, because I see here in the participants list, there are a lot of master students coming and listening to this presentation, and probably they are interested in continuing their study in Glasgow for PhD. So is there any chance or any possible scholarship that they can apply that come from the university? For example, when I was studying in Australia, University of Melbourne provide scholarship, full scholarship for PhD students. Is there any scholarship that they can apply as well in Glasgow? So
you mean in addition to Lpdp, right?
Yeah, yeah, because Lpdp is very competitive. So congratulations, Herdiana, you got it, and you got it twice. Yay! Yeah, it's very competitive, and I think our students will be very, have more opportunity if there's more scholarship opportunities. That's my first question. The second question is that the challenge of applying doctoral degrees is finding supervisor who are willing to supervise the future student, the prospective students. But the problem is sometimes when we contacted the expert in one university and this prospective student don't have any connection or no one introduced them to the expert, they didn't get positive reply. So is there any mechanism in University of Glasgow to facilitate these master students or master graduates to continue their studies in Glasgow? And also, I think if I see the list, there are also a lot of doctors who are coming and listening to this presentation. I'm wondering whether there is postdoctoral vacancy in Glasgow University, and if there is, where can we get the information and how to apply it? Yeah, I think that's my feedback, Pak Ubad.
Thank you so much, Ibu Hani.
Thank you so much.
Well, I believe that both the responses from both the speakers are addressed to Julia and also Herdiana. First, it's about the uniqueness of some of the education, of some of the programs offered by the University of Glasgow, and also about another scholarship offered in addition to Lpdp, about the supervision. So I would like to invite Julie to respond to the questions and comments. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hani, and thank you very much, Safrina, for your comments. The first, I'm going to take the second set of questions first, if you don't mind, and Alfin will be able to help me here. But we actually have organised another session in August. Is it the 15th of August or the 16th of August, Alfin?
16.
16. Yeah.
I've got that down. So on the 16th of August, our postgraduate director, Professor Margaret Sutherland, will be doing another talk to specifically address these points about PhD study at Glasgow and about answering some of the specific questions about writing proposals and how to interact in the system. Now, as Herdiana said, one of the things that she did was she finished her master's degree, and kept in touch with her tutors and developed her proposal. So I like, for me personally, when I'm taking on board a PhD student, I like the PhD student to make contact round about starting now, with a view towards coming on board in the next academic year. So having as long as possible in advance is the best thing to do, is to start thinking about your PhD and contact the tutor, the supervisor in advance. What we do not like, and was what we quite often get, is an email that we can tell has gone to 50 people and they haven't even bothered putting your name in the middle, and the proposal, you know, I mean, I can tell you stories where people have sent me proposals that they've sent to other people, and the feedback from the other person is still on the proposal, and they haven't even removed the feedback. So there's some terrible things happen. I'm assuming that won't be the situation here, but what we're looking for is to establish a relationship about ideas, and that you're looking at the supervisor and where the supervisor's knowledge and expertise lies. And you're then creating a proposal that's about your work. But the thing that we're looking for most in the proposal is what you're going to do. And you must know that Glasgow talks a lot about this concept of being world changing. So we're looking for research that we can see is going to go and make an impact backed in the communities that people come from. So we're really, really interested in this idea of the social impact that the research is going to have. And that's one of the things that a good proposal will draw upon and make clear. We do have scholarships. We have internal scholarships within the university, and we have scholarships from the funding councils. But as I said, Margaret on the 16th of August is going to talk more specifically about that. But perhaps it might be an idea that the slideshows from both this event and Margaret's event on the 16th can be shared with both audiences. And then people who perhaps have came today but can't attend on the 16th can then have, you know, the slideshows could be sent to everybody that's signed up. Alfin, would that be possible?
Yep, that's fine, yeah.
And that kind of segues into answering Safrina's point. And one of the things that Glasgow talks about is this idea of being a world changer. And the idea that when you contribute to an academic body, you're thinking about how that knowledge is going to come and work with you and impact on the field of employment that you find yourself in. So we're looking for people who want to then use the skills and the knowledge and the ideas to make a difference to their community. And I think that's where your point there, Safrina, about being future looking is really, really important. We're beginning to look at the challenges that we're facing as a global population. We're beginning to think about, you know, what were the things that kept us going as human beings through the pandemic? How do we turn back to arts and language and culture and some of the things that are very, very important to us as human beings? How do we think about the planet in the future and the fact that, you know, through global warming, we're destroying the planet, and that's going to have a huge impact, maybe not on us as older people, but on the youth and the youth of tomorrow. So we, you know, those courses, I think you're right in that we've tried to design a set of courses that are forward thinking. And it's about students then thinking about how some of these big concepts can then play out within their own fields. And it's really, really interesting to think that when we're educating people today who will still be alive in the year perhaps 2050. Well, no, even further on than that. And the whole point about education is that we're touching the future. And so we have to make our education future-minded. Yes, we have knowledge and concepts that we carry with us from the past, such as TESOL and English language teaching, and we have a strong understanding of what language is, but we do then need to be future-minded to think, well, what does this mean? What does the globalization of English language mean for the future if it means that we're going to be killing off other languages and we're suppressing people's identities? So I really do think at Glasgow, we have academics that think about these issues, and these are the types of students that we're wanting to encourage onto our programmes and the types of research that we want to embed in. I really like this idea of the work that we do is about human flourishing and wanting us to flourish as human beings.
Well, thank you so much, Julie, for such a great response. Now, I would like to invite Ibu Herdiana to probably add a few more words, maybe based on your experiences studying there at Glasgow. Please, Ibu.
Thank you so much. Which one first? Ooh, there's so many. I think the first one, yeah, I agree with the specificity, if I can say that. Yeah, so it's the niche of the certain programs, because that's my own personal experience. I'm lucky that my parents are very supportive, but my extended family, they all look at me as a one weird lady who studied children's books, and they're like, what is that? What is going to be? So yeah, and every time I introduce myself to people back home in Indonesia, like, what are you studying? Children's literature. And they're like, what? So you can, I
it's too segmented, right?
Yeah. I really understand that struggle. It takes time to change people's perspectives on what's important, what's not, and yeah, but we have to start somewhere. So I hope there'll be more. Yeah, we just have to invite more people to be interested in this so-called weird subjects, so that more and more people will see their impacts as well, and also maybe to introduce them in, like Julie said, in the more contextualized. So what it means to our country, for example, what is children, what is the importance of having good children's books in Indonesia? So I'm very lucky that, again, talking about internationality of Glasgow, for both my research, both my master's dissertation and PhD thesis. So it's the other way around in Indonesia. Yeah. We call it dissertasi and thesis, right? Yes. So sometimes I still get mixed. So for both of those final projects, I got a green light to study Indonesian children's books. So my supervisors, they just trust me with my translations, because as you know, most of us don't speak English and our books are not in English. So I just translate parts of these books. And for my PhD, I even got to do field work in some schools in Indonesia. So it is accepted here, to focus on your country. So not only about British or English children's books. So there are ways to make it work. And as long as you can, maybe convince people that this is important for our country, something like that. So that's about the specificity of the programs, the uniqueness of the programs. But selling it to parents, I think is the challenge. Yeah, I can understand that very much, because I can still I still get that look when I introduce myself to people and what I do. And I think in terms of what Ibu Hani said about contacting prospective supervisors, although I'm very fortunate that I still maintain contact with the lecturer team, but during those 2 years when I was contemplating about where's my PhD going to be, I actually tried to explore other options too, so not only in Glasgow. So I just want to say that my own experience in contacting potential supervisors in the UK, they're quite responsive actually. You just have to wait some time, but their emails, all the university websites, they always have the emails of these supervisors. You just have to study them and find ones, and then some of them were quite honest. So when I told them that my proposal was going to be looking at children's books about diversity and about how children Indonesia respond to these books, some of them honestly responded, "That's not my area. I'm not expert in that. So sorry. You might be interested to contact other people." So yeah, it might take some time, but the people here, they do reply their emails, even though maybe not directly or immediately. I think that's it. What else can I share? I think in terms of scholarships, you can also find lots of information in our website, right, Julie? Because I find the website is just a mass of information. So when I did my research about which universities to apply, even when I back when I was still looking for the master's programs, all these websites are enough, from to do the research from Indonesia. Like, okay, so I got enough information about this program. This is what this program offers. This is what this program doesn't offer. And then again, this is also when I applied for the master's, so not only for the doctoral program. I contacted the program director and I asked them, what does this university mean about the Masters in Children's Literature, because it's not only Glasgow that offers that program. And then they will also reply and they say that if you're interested in this, then this is what we're doing. But if you're interested in this, no, we don't have that, sorry. So that's it's worth it to spend some time to read all the websites, and because it's all there, the contact details and the details about their programs. So yeah, I think that's what I can share from my point. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ibu Hardiana, for telling us that those opportunities are widely open as long as you can convince the people, right? And thank you also for telling us that the prospective supervisors are actually responsive, but maybe as long as we're not blasting the emails to multiple recipients, right? As what Julie previously mentioned. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for a Q&A session. So I'd like to invite maybe 2 or 3 questions from the floor. You could either raise your hand, click the raise your hand feature, or you can immediately unmute your speaker and then address your question directly to today's speakers, or you can write down your question on the chat box. So first 2 questions or comments, please.
So like if Annie said, there are many doctoral students and masters at the moment here?
Yes,
I believe so.
One of my early childhood education master students is here.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and also some of the doctors. And Herdiana, actually, Bu Safrina and I develop books for children about diversity and gender equality.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we did the research for 3 years, yeah, Bu Safrina, and we have reached like the research ended on the 2019. And yeah, we are still looking another research grant to make this research bigger, and we can disseminate the books all over Indonesia. So
that's wonderful.
So it's the team leader is Dr. Vina Adriani, and she was quite well known as well in research about gender and children.
Right.
So we developed a book for young
children.
Children for formal use in playgroups, kindergarten. Sorry.
In kindergarten.
Because
so it's picture book.
Yeah,
picture books.
Yeah, picture books. Books are not. I think most of them are not made based on research, so they tend to be very discriminative. Toward women. So I think that's the idea, is to make it more diverse.
And I also supervise some of students who are researching about children literature from gender perspective and social justice perspective in UPI. So I think we are in one niche. About yeah.
Buhani
Yeah,
is Buhani is got her PhD in gender studies, yeah, when
yes,
in
my PhD
University
is
of
in
Melbourne.
yeah,
One
but
of the,
yeah.
no, I was going to say that one of the things I've done is I've taken Safrina's email and I'm going to set up a meeting, because I think we might be able to maybe just think about doing something a little bit collaborative, maybe with our students, connected to some of these issues of gender and diversity. I work on a course called Children's Literature for a Diverse World that Herdiana has helped me with. So there might be ways that we can just have, you know, like a joint lecture.
That
or
will be
something.
very interesting. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let's talk about that
Yeah.
afterwards.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sensing more collaborations are coming between UP and Glasgow.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, Pak Abu, talking about collaborations, as Julie here is also the director of internationalization at Glasgow, would you like to say a few words, probably as the director of international affairs of UP?
Thank you, Pak. So once again, welcome, Julie, and also Palfi, and also Herdiana. I think the U of G and UP, I think we have been working as so this is not the first time here, Palfin. I think one of the ongoing program is that with the joint publications and also with the joint, yes, in publication, Palfin. One of the UP has some journals. So one of the journals is in social science education. I think the journal, I think our journal needs international reviewers. And I think one of the journal is in social science education, which needs international reviewers. And I think I have contacted Claire and to assign maybe any academic from University of Glasgow to serve as the reviewer for our journal. So that I think that's also ongoing partnership between UPI and Glasgow. And I do hope that we will have, yes, as I heard from Safrina and from Buhani, I think it's more interesting to have more collaboration, yes. I think I'm also interested in this area of children's literature. I remember I also did my master at Boston University in developmental studies, and I remember I took one of the course with Herdiana in children's literature, yeah, where we learn a picture book and everything, and that's fascinating. So that will be interesting to have more partnership in the area. I think that's the joint, where we can have joint conference or joint research and a joint publication, and also and of course visiting or guest lecture. I think that will be some potentials that we can develop between our two institutes. So that's thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Abu. Well, Ibu Saf, Ibu Hani, Julie, and Herdiana, is there anything else to discuss further?
No, I think it would be really useful to share this talk and then to share the next talk with everybody. And if I could also, I've exchanged emails with Safrina to set up that separate meeting, but it might also be worthwhile me setting up a separate meeting with Ahmed. Sorry, could you help me with your names? Do you go for the second name first? So would I call you Bakori Ahmed or Ahmed Bakori?
It's Ahmad Bakori.
Oh, okay, so it would be really maybe helpful if we were to set up a meeting to talk about those international collaborations, because while we've made the link on children's literature, there might be some other links that we could make between education staff. And I would just like to thank, it's been lovely to meet people. Obviously Claire McManus sometimes sends information and I don't know who people are and I don't know names. So it's been absolutely delightful this morning to see people's faces and talk to people and know a little bit about you as individuals and what you're specializing in. So thank you very much for sharing that with me.
Yes, please send my regard to Claire as well.
You do,
well, thank you very much, everybody. I believe this is the end of our session for today's guest lecture. But as usual, this is kind of mandatory in every virtual session, the photo session. So before we close this session, I would like everybody to turn on the camera and then show me your best smile on my three. Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Probably thumbs up or a little Korean heart shape. 3, 2, 1.
Heart shape.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Obad, your today's moderator, signing off. My apologies for any inconvenience. I would like to remind you that we have the second session on PhD info session.
Yes.
That will be held on August 16th. So looking forward to seeing you all there. Thank you so much. Stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Bye-bye, Julie.
Bye semua.
Alvin and Diana, thank
Julie,
you.
bye. Nice to meet you. Bye.
Alvin,
Ustaz,
thank
Bu
you so
Hani,
much.
hatur nuhun pisan.
Oh, mangga.
Kami terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you everyone, Julie, Alvin.
Thank you, Pak.
Yang sudah datang hari ini. Silahkan Maha, boleh ditutup. Intan atau Maha?
Intan,
do you say on saying goodbye, do you say salam alaikum or alaikum salam, or do you just say that at the beginning?
Yeah,
So you can say that one also.
both at the beginning and close. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
See you, Julie. Bye.
See you.
Diana.
Ya kan ini siapa yang
Ini kayak gitu host.
Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu.
Oh, Intan ya. Ya, makasih Intan ya.
Ya Bapak. Ibu
Terima
nanti
kasih.
sepertinya Intan posternya akan diganti lagi.
Iya.
Iya, iya. Nanti
Mohon maaf Ibu.
tanggal 16 atau 16 Intan?
16.
Tapi
16 ya.
ini Intan itu tanggal 16 tuh ya. Yang satu Thursday, yang satu Tuesday.
Hati-hati itu.
Saya diingatkan seseorang, Bu, tanggal 16 itu Selasa bukan Kamis. Iya, ya. Oke.
Iya Ibu, punten Bapak dan Ibu.
Ya, iya no Intan ya.
Siap Bapak, nanti Intan ganti dulu. Ya.
Ya, Intan.
Bapak Ibu, waalaikumsalam. Izin menutup Zoom Bapak Ibu.
Ya, mangga.
Ya.